say, come on then, oh no, I don't fancy going.
Yeah.
And all of that will have been for nothing. So there has to be some sort of encouragement that the player would want to go. We do know that the head coach, Ruben Amorim, is a huge admirer of Victor Gyokeres. He played under Amorim at Sporting, played fantastically well under Amorim, continued to play fantastically well last season as well. And it should also be said here that United are in the market for a striker regardless of what happens with Rasmus Højlund. We did tell you last week that there has been some interest, particularly from Italy, where his stock is still quite high because he came from Atalanta, was highly rated when United took a punt on him. Inter Milan, we think, are interested. They were just waiting for Christian Kivu to be appointed officially, and now they will make a decision on whether they want to pursue it or not. Rasmus Højlund, though, publicly at least, is saying, I've got a contract here for another few years. I'll be at Manchester United next season and I will be competing for my place next season. It should also be said here that United, yes, they are interested in Victor Gyokeres, that is clear, but there are a number of other players in that position that they'll be looking at too.
Are they still looking at...
Why are top players rejecting Manchester United? The harsh reality behind our summer transfer struggles. The summer transfer window was supposed to be different this time. After bringing in Matheus Cunha for £62.5 million, Manchester United fans had every right to feel optimistic about the direction the club was heading. But just weeks later, that optimism is starting to fade as one target after another slips through our fingers. Victor Gyokeres has reportedly rejected a move to Old Trafford. Liam Delap chose Chelsea over us. Bryan Mbeumo's transfer has stalled with Tottenham now in the mix. The question every United fan is asking right now is simple. Why does this keep happening to us? The Gyokeres rejection that stings the most. When news broke that Victor Gyokeres had turned down Manchester United, it felt like a punch to the gut for many fans. Here's a player who seemed perfect for what Ruben Amorim is trying to build at Old Trafford. The Portuguese striker knows Amorim's system inside out from their time together at Sporting CP. He's been scoring goals for fun in the Portuguese league. Everything about this transfer made sense. But according to reports from Portugal, Gyokeres has said no to United. The reasons given are brutal in their honesty. Financial issues at the club. No European football this season. Too much sporting risk involved in joining a team that's struggling to find its identity. Think about that for a moment. A player who worked with our current manager is worried about the sporting risk of joining Manchester United. That's not just disappointing, it's a wake-up call about how far we've fallen in the eyes of top players. The report claims that Arsenal are now in pole position to sign Gyokeres. They've already had a £55 million bid rejected, but they're still in the race. Meanwhile, United Chiefs apparently made contact with both Sporting CP and the player this week, only to see their offer fail to convince anyone. What does this say about where we are as a club right now? When a player who knows our manager personally still doesn't want to join us, we have to ask some serious questions about our current situation. The domino effect of rejection. The Gyokeres situation isn't happening in isolation. It's part of a pattern that's becoming increasingly worrying for United fans. First, we lost out on Liam Delap to Chelsea. Now Gyokeres is reportedly heading to Arsenal. Even Bryan Mbeumo, who seemed like a done deal just weeks ago, is now being courted by Tottenham. Why do other clubs keep swooping in to steal our targets? The answer might be uncomfortable, but it's worth exploring. Chelsea can offer Delap a clear path to first-team football and Champions League ambitions. Arsenal can give Gyokeres European competition and a team that's been consistently challenging for trophies. Tottenham can promise Mbeumo a manager in Ange Postecoglou who's building something exciting. What can United offer right now? A work in progress. A team that's trying to find its way under a new manager. No European football this season. Financial constraints that make it harder to compete with our rivals. It's not that United lacks ambition or history. But in the modern game, players want to see clear progress and immediate opportunities. They want to join clubs that are moving forward, not ones that might be moving forward eventually. The Eberechi plan, a silver lining? With Gyokeres seemingly off the table and Mbeumo's transfer in doubt, United are reportedly turning their attention to other options. The most interesting name being mentioned is Eberechi from Crystal Palace. Ease would cost around £65 million through his release clause. That's a significant investment, but it might be exactly what United need right now. The England international is creative, versatile, and has proven himself in the Premier League. He's the type of player who could add that spark to our attack that we've been missing. But here's the thing about Ease, he's not sitting around waiting for United to make up their minds. Aston Villa and Tottenham are also interested. Once again, we're in a situation where we need to move quickly or risk losing another target to a rival. The question is, will United learn from their recent rejections and act decisively on Ease? Or will we see the same pattern repeat itself? The alternative option, Antoine Semenyo. ESPN reports that United are also considering Antoine Semenyo from Bournemouth as another alternative to Mbeumo. Semenyo has been impressive for Bournemouth and was linked with United earlier this year. The problem? Bournemouth apparently wants £70 million for him. So let's do the math here. We missed out on our first-choice targets and now we're looking at paying more money for players who weren't our original preference. Mbeumo was going to cost around £60 million. Semenyo would cost £70 million. Ease's release clause is £65 million. Is this smart business? Are we making the best use of our transfer budget by constantly having to move to more expensive alternatives because we can't secure our primary targets? What this means for Amorim's project. Ruben Amorim came to Manchester United with a clear vision. He wants to play a specific style of football that requires specific types of players. Gyokeres was perfect for his system because they'd worked together before. The striker knew exactly what was expected of him. Now Amorim has to adapt his plans. He needs to find players who can fit his system but who are also willing to join United in our current state. That's not an easy task. The manager deserves credit for the way he's handled these setbacks publicly. He's remained positive and focused on the players he has. But privately, these rejections must be frustrating. When you're trying to build something new, you need the right pieces. Getting your second or third choice in every position makes the job much harder. The bigger picture, why players are saying no. Let's be honest about why players are rejecting United right now. It's not just about money or European football, though those factors matter. It's about momentum and belief. When a player looks at Manchester United in 2025, what do they see? A club that's had multiple managers in recent years. A team that finished outside the European places last season. Owners who are still figuring out their long-term strategy. A squad that's been rebuilt multiple times without clear success. Compare that to what they see when they look at Arsenal, Chelsea, or even Tottenham. These clubs have clear identities and directions. They might have their own problems, but they feel like they're moving forward with purpose. United are trying to rebuild that sense of purpose under Amorim, but it takes time. Players don't want to wait for that process to complete. They want to join clubs that are already there or very close to being there. The financial reality check. The reports about Gyokeres mention financial issues as one reason for his rejection. This raises uncomfortable questions about United's current financial situation. Are we really in a position where we can't compete financially with our rivals? The Matheus Cunha signing for £62.5 million suggests we still have money to spend. But maybe we're being more careful about how we spend it. Maybe the owners are putting restrictions on what we can offer in terms of wages and transfer fees. If that's the case, it changes everything about how we approach the transfer market. We can't just assume we can outbid everyone anymore. We need to be smarter about identifying players who want to join us for the right reasons, not just the biggest paycheck. Learning from Chelsea's success. It's worth looking at how Chelsea managed to sign Liam Delap away from us. They didn't just offer more money, they offered a better opportunity. Delap could see a clear path to first-team football at Chelsea. He could see how he'd fit into their system and their long-term plans. United need to get better at selling the vision. We need to show players not just what we are now, but what we're building toward. We need to make them believe that joining United today means being part of something special tomorrow. That's easier said than done when you're competing with clubs that can offer immediate success. But it's not impossible. Liverpool did it under Jurgen Klopp. Arsenal did it under Mikel Arteta. Both clubs had periods where they couldn't offer European football but still attracted top players by selling a compelling vision. The road ahead. So where does this leave United as we head toward the end of the transfer window? We have some important decisions to make. Do we go all in for Gyokeres and pay his release clause? Do we take a chance on Antoine Semenyo at £70 million? Or do we look for completely different options? The danger is that we end up paying more money for players who weren't our first choice. That's not sustainable long-term. We need to get better at identifying targets early and closing deals quickly before other clubs can interfere. We also need to be realistic about our current position in the football hierarchy. We're not the dominant force we once were. Other clubs have caught up and in some cases overtaken us. That means we need to work harder to convince players to join us. Questions every United fan should be asking. As we watch this transfer window unfold, there are some tough questions we need to ask ourselves. Are we being too ambitious in our targets? Should we be looking at players who are hungry to prove themselves rather than established stars who have multiple options? Is our recruitment strategy working? Are we identifying the right players and approaching transfers in the right way? How much should we be willing to spend on players who weren't our first choice? Is it better to overpay for alternatives or wait for better opportunities? What can the club do to make itself more attractive to top players? Is it just about results on the pitch, or are there other factors we need to address? The importance of getting it right. Every transfer decision United make this summer will have consequences for years to come. If we end up with a squad full of expensive second choices, we'll be back in the same position next summer trying to upgrade again. But if we can find the right players who believe in what Amorim is building, we could be looking at the foundation of something special. The key is making sure we're attracting players for the right reasons. Hope for the future. Despite all the rejections and setbacks, there are reasons for United fans to remain optimistic. Ruben Amorim is a proven winner who knows how to build successful teams. The club's new ownership structure should provide more stability and better decision-making. And United's history and global appeal haven't disappeared overnight. What we're going through now might be necessary. Maybe we need to face these rejections to understand what needs to change. Maybe we need to rebuild our reputation gradually rather than expecting immediate results. The clubs that have been most successful in recent years are the ones that stuck to their plans even when things got difficult. Liverpool didn't give up on Klopp when they struggled early on. Arsenal didn't abandon Arteta when results weren't coming. United need to show the same patience and commitment to Amorim's vision. But we also need to be smarter about how we operate in the transfer market. Final thoughts. The reality of rebuilding. The harsh truth is that rebuilding Manchester United was always going to be harder than many fans hoped. Years of poor decisions and inconsistent planning can't be fixed in one transfer window. Players like Gyokeres rejecting us is painful, but it's also a reminder of how much work still needs to be done. The challenge now is to stay focused on the long-term vision while making smart short-term decisions. We can't afford to panic by expensive alternatives just because our first choices said no. But we also can't afford to stand still while our rivals strengthen their squads. What happens with players like Gyokeres in the coming weeks will tell us a lot about whether United are learning from their recent setbacks. Are we becoming better at identifying and securing targets? Are we getting better at selling our vision to potential signings? The transfer window isn't over yet. There's still time to make the right moves and end this period on a positive note. But every day that passes makes it harder to complete the deals we need. United fans have been patient through years of disappointment. We deserve better than watching our targets join our rivals. The question is whether the people running our club are ready to do what it takes to make that happen. The next few weeks will give us our answer.